Action!
Welcome to Stay Stitching. My name is Carla, and I'm glad you're here. For those of you who are new, this is my husband, Troy. He used to do a lot more videos with me, and I have him here today for moral support. On December 17th, I had vertical sleeve gastrectomy, which is a form of weight loss surgery in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. I want to start off by giving an apology to all my dear friends here that I have been untruthful with, because I had not told them about this. We're shaking I'll try not to touch the table. I've not told them about this, and I have several reasons why, and I know they'll understand because I have the best friends in the world. And so I just want to, from the outset, apologize to them for not telling them everything that went down right away. Second thing is, any of you who have not had weight loss surgery yet but are considering it, please remember that everyone's experience is their experience as an individual, okay? Everything you hear from me is anecdotal. It's my experience, it's what I went through. It doesn't mean that it's average or that everyone will go through what I went through. And I just want you to keep that in mind. So, we went to Mexico, had the surgery on the 17th. It was uneventful. Went back to the hospital, went back to the room, woke up, and then they take you back to your room. And everything seemed to be fine. I was having a hard time catching my breath. This lung over here, I felt like I could only draw breath to about here, and it was really painful. I thought perhaps that was the gas. You know, they pump you full of gas, and they do that for a lot of different abdominal surgeries. So that's not anything unique to weight loss surgery. And I didn't get up and walk as much as you're supposed to. And that breathing kept on hurting. And so after about 24 hours, they did a chest x-ray. Well, they thought I had a collapsed lung. And that is not as alarming as it sounds. Apparently it does happen. A little bit of your lung will collapse. And I always thought that was, like a death sentence. When I heard about it, it just sounded awful. But it's a thing that happens. And so they took a chest x-ray, and I didn't have a collapsed lung, but I did have pneumonia. And I don't know how that happened. I don't know if it was from swimming in the ocean, a couple of days or the day before, or all throughout November, I had been really sick with a cold, and maybe I had walking pneumonia already. I don't know. So I had that. And so they gave me one of those little things that you blow into and the balls go up, and they wanted me to start doing that. When they first gave it to me, I couldn't move the balls at all. There was nothing, no movement. And they encouraged me to continue to try to do that. And I tried, and several times various doctors, by this time not just my surgeon was involved, but the hospital doctor. You have to have a GP. I think because of my age, I'm not sure. Or, yeah, I almost want to say because of my age, I had to have a GP checking in with me as well. But I think once, the pneumonia showed up, that isn't really, the surgeon's area of expertise. Not that they don't know about pneumonia, but so I had several doctors and nurses, and they kept asking me if it was making me nauseated to use that thing. And I was like, no, it's not. And so the next day I continued to use it as much as I could, and then the nausea hit. And I was heaving so hard, I can't really explain it. It was incredible. just awful. And then, and please excuse me if I sound like I don't know what I'm talking about. This was a very trying time. And that's one of the reasons why I haven't said anything about it so far. So, like, that heaving, that hacking happened. I never threw up or anything, but it was violent. And at some point that day, I got my second blood thinner shot in my stomach. That's a normal thing that they do. I think especially if you're going to fly, it's supposed to help prevent problems like deep vein thrombosis or whatever. And so that was nothing abnormal that they were doing for my specific case. So sometime after that, within 24 hours or so, I went to the bathroom. During this whole time, I was trying to get up and walk around, not as often as I should have, but still trying to do it. I had been getting up and going to the bathroom on my own. I had showered every single day. And by now, I think we're up to the 20th. So I go to the bathroom and I'm gonna have a bowel movement, and I do that and I look in the toilet and it's full of blood. And so I called the nurse in, and she looks, and then she goes and she gets some fluid out of a bottle and she pours it in there, and she's taking pictures to send to the doctor, I'm assuming. And so I continue to hemorrhage for 24 hours or so.
I don't think it was that long. I think it was like maybe 12.
12 hours?
Yeah.
Tons of doctors were in there and nurses, and it was just coming hard and fast. Everybody was wondering what the heck was going on, okay? One of the things that they said was it was fresh blood, it didn't stink, which was true. There was no odor, it was fresh blood, and it was just coming and coming. They did, and this is very foggy, you guys, they did a, what all did they do? Was it a CAT scan?
No,
I had to go in the tube thing.
okay, yes, that would be a CAT scan.
Okay, so they did a CAT scan to look all up in my guts, and they did a second endoscopy and to check all of my surgery sites to see if there was a mistake up with my vertical sleeve gastrectomy surgery. That would have been highly unusual. The surgeon that I used, and I'm not going to say his name here because I don't want this negative experience attached to him. I truly believe that he did nothing wrong. I'll continue to tell you more of what happened. Maybe if you're a doctor and you're watching this and you have an opinion, you can weigh in, okay? But I'm just going to tell you what we've learned and figured out on our own, just anecdotally and thinking it through. So I had another endoscopy. They looked to see if there were any tears or bleeds in anything, because there's several things that can be nipped while you're getting this surgery, and that can bleed. I learned later from my gastroenterologist that is here in Pueblo that if that had happened, the blood would have pooled in my abdominal cavity, and that is probably after time. That is when it might go through your system, and then it would smell old and bad, like poop does. And so that was kind of nobody in Mexico thought that that's what happened, especially after they checked. They did the CAT scan, they couldn't see anything there. They checked all the way with the endoscopy, all the way down to my duodenum, which is as far as they can go down from it's where your stomach attaches to your intestines. And so they couldn't go any further because everything was full of blood. They gave me 2 barium enemas and some anticoagulants to stop the bleeding. And the CAT scan was, it didn't show anything because everything was full of blood. So while we were there in Mexico, they were assuming that something had gone wrong in my bowel system. And they kept asking, have you ever had hemorrhoids? And I'm like, Well, yeah, I mean, I've had 3 kids and I'm overweight, so I do get the occasional hemorrhoid, but these are very minor hemorrhoids. I've never even been to the doctor for them. It's not anything that is, it's just a minor flare up every now and then. And those hemorrhoids showed up 5 years ago when I did my first, what do they call that thing they make you get?
Colonoscopy.
Colonoscopy. And they were nothing to worry about because they're not severe or worrisome. And so they thought maybe that an artery very close to the wall of, somewhere in my bowels was disrupted either by was burst either by the extremely violent heaving or, and that coupled with the blood thinner. That's kind of what we went away from Mexico thinking. And I, of course, had cancer in the back of my mind. And so after I had been bleeding for a while, I nearly bled out, apparently. I had a seizure, and the crash cart came in. Troy was there watching all of this, and he thought I was gonna die.
Yep.
And how am I doing? Do you have to?
You're doing great.
Okay. So I was in ICU for 2 days. I had 5 units of blood and 2 units of plasma. My hemoglobin got down to 7. They estimate that I lost 35% of my blood. Later, when we got home, a month or 2 later, I was reading and I discovered that at 40%, you are pretty much dead. So it really was a very, very close call. Let me stop there and tell you once again, I do not think that this was a mistake of my surgeon, nor do I think that the hospital in Mexico mishandled me. This was a beautiful facility, like a spa. I mean, there was art and marble floors. My room was beautiful. I had a walk-in shower. The nurses were all of them were stunning. Their uniforms were beautiful. Their hair and makeup was top-notch. Every single thing was neat as a pin. The cleaning staff also dressed to the nines, all matching uniforms, cleaning nonstop. It was there. I will not throw stones at medical tourism, at least not where I went. So if you can separate what happened to me from Mexico and maybe your thoughts on that, please do. And please don't take anything that I have said here and go tell someone, well, I saw a YouTube video of some girl that nearly died in Mexico. It could have happened anywhere. So after 2 days in the ICU and having all that blood, at one point after they gave me the 5 units of blood or bags or whatever it's called, they were giving me the plasma and I started to itch. And I called the nurse over and I said, my eyes really itch. And they were swollen, almost swollen shut. And she said, you're allergic to the plasma. And she took it off real quick. And, it was like everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. And poor Troy was nearly having a nervous breakdown. The hospital was far away from our hotel room. He spent at least an hour, if not close to 2 hours a day in Ubers, driving back and forth. We had our 15-year-old, 16-year-old with us. He was stuck in the hotel room. We didn't even tell him that I had nearly died. Troy was just like, all right, you gonna play video games with your friends today? Don't go too far, don't leave the hotel. I'm going to see mom. And we just kind of abandoned him. And it was crazy. So after they got me stabilized, I went back to the hotel room. This was the 22nd, the day of the 22nd. At some point, I was allowed to go back, not to my hotel room, to my hospital room. And I spent the night of the 22nd there, and they let us leave on the 23rd. And we flew back to Colorado on the 23rd. So since I've been home, I have had another colonoscopy. I've talked to my gastroenterologist. She's the same one who did my original colonoscopy 5 years ago. At my first appointment with her, where we set up the colonoscopy, she said, it doesn't sound like cancer, because I asked her that. She said, that's not really how the cancer works. She says, usually you'll see some little bits of blood here and there. And you don't normally nearly bleed to death, you know, from colon cancer or whatever kinds of cancers you can get from down there. And then I had my colonoscopy, and another thing that she said was that if the bleed had happened during surgery, again, she said the blood would have collected in my abdominal cavity. It would not have come through my bowels and gone out of my anus. So she saw nothing on that colonoscopy. So we still don't know what happened. I'm not terribly concerned about it. It is a concern, but I'm no longer, you know, in a foreign country. If I ever poop blood again, I will go straight to the ER. And I know that, you know, in the United States, like in any hospital, if you can get to the hospital, you're not going to bleed to death. All of that turmoil and trauma, and it truly was a trauma, and it took me a while to get over it. I was not physically healed for probably 8 weeks. It took me 8 weeks to start to feel strong enough to get through the day, literally. Normal VSG, 2 weeks max. Vertical sleeve gastrectomy is it's a laparoscopic surgery, at least the way I had it done. And people are normally up and out of the bed within 24 hours, walking around and doing not heavy lifting, but really walking around and doing pretty normal stuff. Some people go back to work within 1 week. Some people go back to work within 2 weeks. Most people can do that. You know, I was 55 when I had that surgery, so there's that to deal with, because, you know, I'm not a 20-something. I have been losing weight slowly. I think I've lost 36 or 37 pounds. I don't weigh myself every day. You can eat about half a cup of food after you've had this surgery. You have to be very careful to get your protein in. You have to work hard to get your water in. I used to drink 1 gallon of water a day easy, and now it's a little bit more of a struggle because there's no room in your stomach. And then the other thing is you have to wait 30 minutes after you eat so that you don't wash all of your valuable nutrients out of your system. So what the surgery does is it cuts out 70 to 75% of your stomach. So people who have had this surgery, their stomach is kind of in the shape of a banana. Instead of being that little pouch that normal stomachs are, it's now the shape of a banana. And so beyond all that, I don't really know what all to tell you. I know that is a lot to take in. It's a lot to remember. I probably left stuff out.
Yeah, the important stuff, like Wilson and I got to see the world premiere of the Star Wars movie.
Yes, I left that out. Well, I was in ICU probably.
No, it was the day before you went to ICU.
Oh, okay.
In English with Spanish subtitles. We ate sliders at the seats. It was a very nice theater. We went snorkeling.
That was so much fun.
Rode on a pirate ship. Had a really good time. It's beautiful down there. I won't go back. It was too traumatic. But situation like this put me on my knees praying harder than I probably ever have, and reminded me how important faith is. And if you just got to have faith. I prayed the 23rd Psalm probably for 4 hours, and then they let me see her for like 30 minutes. That was it. but we got her home, and it only took me about a week to stop crying over it.
Every time he would cry, like over anything.
Yeah. And now with not being around our students and being around other people, it's really important to understand relationships you have with people. This is the only one that I got with me right now. So we're enjoying each other, but anytime I'm with anyone, I want to be fully with them. And so if you could take anything from me, have faith, believe, and enjoy the people you're with.
I agree. When we first got home, even though I was terribly weak and still really just weak, I just was on this, like walking on cloud 9 with gratitude that I was still alive. And so that's one thing that I can take away from it, is the gratitude. And, you know, during this COVID-19 thing, it's been really incredible. Troy and I have so much to be grateful for. There are business owners who are struggling, and so many people, you know, workers who's, you know, restaurant workers. You don't have to own a business to be in a bad way right now. And we're so lucky because we're teachers, and it's a little bit ironic because teachers, as you know, the salaries for teachers are terrible. And Colorado is one of the worst paid states in the United States, like the second worst or something, paid state in the United States for teachers. So it's something that we can grumble about and we can joke about, you know, but now here we are still getting a paycheck.
Still working with kids.
Regular.
Don't see them.
Yeah, just we don't see them. So I'm not going to turn this channel into a weight loss channel, but I am happy to answer questions, and you can ask me any question you want. You know, why did I do this? Why don't I just lose the weight? Why didn't I just diet? You know, all of that stuff. I will address all of that. I just didn't want to make this video an hour long. So if you're thinking of weight loss surgery, or you know someone is, or you're just flat out curious about what it's like and why I made the decision and how I'm doing right now, please feel free to put any questions you have in the comments below, and I will make another video sometime in the next week and talk about it some more. So in the meantime, you guys take care. Don't take your loved ones for granted. Be grateful for everything that you have, and know that even though I've been missing for like a month, that I still think of you. I just haven't been into sewing or making YouTube videos. So, and you guys who have been subscribers for for a year or two, know that I sometimes go missing about once a year. I'll have a month or two long break, and that's kind of normal for me. So everyone, please take care. And I hope that you are all doing well.